Hi, everyone. Thanks for making it today. This is Praveen. I'm one of the founders of Factors.ai, and I take care of the core product and customer success functions at Factors. About Factors, we are a marketing analytics and account intelligence platform which helps marketing teams optimize their campaigns and sales teams prioritize their outbound efforts and hence generate more pipeline. We work with nearly 200 B2B and SaaS companies across the world at all stages of growth from seed to public companies. Today, I'm privileged to host Ankit, co-founder of Clearfeed and one of our earliest customers. Ankit, welcome.
Hey, Praveen and the team at Factors. Excited to be here and share my learnings and thoughts.
Yeah. Ankit, maybe we can just start off with a very quick overview of Clearfeed and your journey. When did you start Clearfeed and so on, just to give the participants an overview.
Sure. So, hi, this is Ankit. This is my second venture. Prior to this, I was running a retail AI startup that really didn't it wasn't a great outcome, but a lot of learnings in that journey. Post that, I ran product for a conversational AI startup called Factors.ai. And that's where, that was my real first exposure towards trying to apply machine learning or AI in a context which created some tangible value for a specific persona. In that context, it was customer support or agents in call centers. We used to automate a large part of their call volumes and so on. I started Clearfeed along with Joy and Lalit about a year and a half back. I think it's been quite an interesting journey where so I think I generally put that startups are typically started by two type of personas. One are set of people who are very, very clear on what is the problem that you want to solve. And then they go after trying to knit together the right solution. I would kind of call these as consultant personas, lack of better term, but let me bucket it that way. And then there are people who kind of start with, okay, this is my innovation, right? Or whatever you want to call it, right? This is the core a new technology that is enabled or whatever you want to call that. And then you have a broad idea still that, maybe these are the potential problems that you want to potentially solve. And then you go and try and figure out, right, where does this fit and so on. And I think, there are both possible kind of ways to build a company. I don't think there is one clear way. We started as we thought that there are a couple of interesting trends. One was dramatically accelerated adoption of team chat-based platform like Slack and Teams. That was one trend. And the other trend that was definitely what we could see happening, this is before ChatGPT happened, was the democratization of natural language models and so on, right? And we said that at the intersection of these two trends, if we can find interesting problem areas and try and unlock value via that, right? That was a broad, at a very, very high level, that is what we thought. In fact, our first version of a product was, we said that, we'll reduce noise in organizations. That's the name Clearfeed. So clear the feed, right? So reduce noise and help people kind of, drive meaningful decisions or unblock their teams. I mean, that's such a broad, high level thought, right? That doesn't even warrant it was not even, there was no ICP at that point in time. That was the high level thought, right? And then we said that, okay, let's narrow it down, right? And then we looked at, okay, the applications of these in different areas. And then one of the areas where at a high level, we found some interest as we started talking to a lot of people, friends and network in the starting was, okay, so very interesting phenomena is playing out as a lot of startups in a specific segment are offering shared Slack support to a lot of the early customers. At a high level, that was an area that we felt that it seems interesting. This is, again, something that is possible right now, because this was a feature that Slack launched about 3.5 years back. So it's not that prevalent. And then we went ahead and then started our journey of trying to figure out, okay, in this context, what's the real problem, and is there a meaningful solution to be built basis some of the core technology pieces that we have built. And that's how we started. And essentially at this point in time, all our 40, 50 customers that we essentially help them scale Slack or Microsoft Teams based support to their customers. It can be either premium support that you offer to them, or it can be just your end-to-end support stack as well. There are two segments that we deal with, and it's been quite a journey. So happy to share, but more deeper. But I mean, that's what we essentially do right now.
Yeah, great on that milestone of hitting the first 50 customers, right? I think that's a good segue into just laying out the agenda for today's talk, right? Which is what we're going to cover today is essentially the idea of early stage sales, right? Getting to those first 50 customers, that takes so much effort, right? And what is an engagement based sales model, and how can that be a game changer for startups? And specifically, how does account identification and unifying all of your account data help in this process, which is what Factors offers, right? And finally, we'll end with Clearfeed's own growth journey from the point of conceptualization to where they are today with 50 plus customers on this, right? So Ankit, I mean, obviously you've gone through this twice, and this is my first time with a tech startup, but early stage sales is probably like getting those first 20 customers is probably like the hardest, right? Obviously it doesn't get easier after that, but this is probably like it takes mountains to get those first 20 customers. You are an unknown brand, your ICP is evolving, product market fit is yet to be achieved, limited team bandwidth, limited tooling. You don't have like set playbooks of how to nurture accounts and bring them into your funnel, etc. Right? So when you started, like, how did you navigate this? What was that journey?
Yeah, man. So I think so I met so I'll kind of start with like what I learned when I met Khadim from Whatfix, right? One of the things he says that startups are hourglass. Like hourglass is like you start with a very top, very broad top set of, maybe, hey, I can do this also, this also, this also. There are like 5, 6 segments that you were, because you don't know right now that, where it will click, right? And then starts the journey of going narrow and as sharp as possible. Because like a startup can't say that I serve 5 segments, right? The startup has to say that I serve this one segment, and that also this ICP specifically in this, in this type of, let's say mid-market customer success for a specific type of companies and so on, right? So I think it has to be very, very narrow in the starting, right? So the most difficult part is actually trying to understand, at least like for us, it was trying to understand where will we find the maximum amount of pull. Even before sales, right? I would say like in our head, that was still the bigger battle of trying to narrow down. And like that journey, I would say to a large extent, so one of the mistakes that I did when my previous startup was to just reach out to people in my network and then just started talking to them. This time I was very cautious that we will not kind of onboard a lot of people within the network. So we went through a structured process of, okay, like these are the 4-5 segments, and in the 4-5 segments with the technology that we were trying to build, what are the problems that this solves today? So we went through like a list of an ICP and a problem area that we think might be relevant for them, or we have a hypothesis or like known value at a high level. And then we basically, the first step was the customer discovery step, where we just reached out to let's say 200 people in each of those segments, and then ask them, hey, is this a problem that you have? And then do you want to talk to us about the problem and give us feedback? This was a heart-to-heart founder reach out. I mean, you basically beg them to talk to you. It's simple, right? Lack of better words, right? So there.
So Ankit, just to understand here. So did you mean that you had 4 or 5 ICP segments at that time, because you've not narrowed in on one?
We had not narrowed it down at that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So let me give you more concrete examples, right? So actually, even right now, right? So there are a couple of use cases that we thought that this might be interesting. One was what we ended up being, which is the customer success support on Slack for SMBs and mid-market companies. That also, like, it has got further narrowed down into a certain segment, but like at that point of time, there was like this segment, right, which is customer success and support on Slack. Then there was engineering escalations on Slack. These were the two most important areas. There are other couple of things that we also kind of discarded due to some other reasons, but like just for the sake of example, these were the two areas that we said that okay, let's now start to. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to find first resonance to the problem, then to the solution, right? So first step, we said that okay, let's talk to a certain number of, at least like a base number of people in each of these segments and identify that is this a problem that people want to solve or not, right? And then I think at this point in time, what the only thing that we were doing is there a reasonable pull for the where is the maximum pull, right? Of the problem area. And this was again like at this stage also we started using a lead database like a Slintel, and then like took some leads out, right? And then via LinkedIn and email SDR outreach. I mean, we were the SDR, so that point in time we reached out and then we said, hey, is this is a problem that is this an important problem for you? If it's a problem, then we want to talk to you, right? And then and then we about 50 to 60 conversations later, we had a sense that there is more pull in customer success and support, even though it was in a narrow segment. That was okay, right? So for us, the pull essentially came out from essentially about Series A to B startups, SaaS startups, which are doing dev tool or enterprise infra or data infra and so on, right? Those kind of companies. And we saw a distinct pull from them that they are facing the brunt of the problem. And I think the biggest signal for that is, that after our calls, they reached out to us. Like, so basically I could like, even with a broken product, onboard them and they were okay.
Got it.
So I think
so. They were asking you when would you be launching and when can we try out the product?
That was the biggest signal, right? So I think I still distinctively remember that. I think our first customer was Atlan, for example, and I think when I'd met Prakalpa and then she had introduced me to. And I didn't know her, but it was still a cold outreach to a large extent. But like she introduced me to the head of support, and like he immediately said that okay, when are you launching, right? And then I think that was the signal that okay, man, it seems like something's here, right? And then I mean that's just a qualitative. We saw enough amount of like these signals, right, from multiple people within the same ICP, though, right? I think the key part over here was that we wanted to be sure that within the same ICP, I'll be getting some point of, right? Because it's very easy to get pulled into multiple directions because, hey, this is also interesting, this is also interesting. But I think in the starting, we wanted to be relatively sharper on like whom we wanted to get in and so on. So I think, so in my philosophy, like in general, the thought process has been that you let your first customers choose you rather than you push the sale. So it should be a pull. At least like the first few customers should be a pull sale, then a push sale. But like, man, these people definitely take, unreasonable amount of risks, right? To get you in. So you have to be very careful about what you commit, and you set the right expectations that, hey man, like this is where we are. Like if you tell me that this is an important problem and you want this to be solved, I can juggle around the roadmap and give you something in the next 2 weeks. But like, just want to be very clear that, hey, there might be bumps, right? So we are here, right? We'll work out of your office or whatever is required to be done. So we'll do that. But yeah, be careful about. I mean, we were fairly careful about like, okay, man, like this is like a product that we're still developing, but like, happy to get you started off like a few features rather than the complete product, so that it solves a meaningful problem for you and so on. But
got it.
Yeah, Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just to summarize, so you started with 3, 4 segments, 2 problem statements, engineering escalations or customer support, and through those customer discovery conversations, you waited to see where are people following up to say, when are you launching the product? And the segment that worked out from that perspective was customer support for Series A to Series B, dev tools or infra kind of SaaS companies. Right?
Yeah.
Pretty well defined and narrow, tight sort of a segment.
Technographic also that they use Slack, right? Because that was our starting point. And over a period of time, there are 2 subsegments within that, which we learned over a period of time. But like to start with, it was this, that, okay, this, because I think one of my learnings from my previous startup is to, in the starting, definitely build something that people really love and then will want to talk about it. So wanted to be careful about that. And it's hard to build things that are loved by many people. It's a lot easier. I mean, you'd know this, Praveen, right? So it's a lot easier to build something that, a few people love. I think this is one of my also takeaways from YC while I was there, that, I try and build something that, a few set of people will love in the starting, so that, there is a referral viral loop, right? And a strong kind of NPS, etc., that automatically gets generated as a result of that.
Got it. Ankit, I have 2 questions at this time. So once you finalize the segment, what was the next step? Was it like, let's build a list of all the companies in this space, Series A, Series B, let's say 1,000 companies, and that's the, was it mostly outbound, or did you also have some inbound coming through at that time? Maybe some search content?
At this point in time, like we didn't have any marketing team, right? It was just the founders, a few engineers cranking the product out, right? So there was no question of inbound, at least at that point in time, right? And then we're also, I think one distinction is like, okay, are you creating a new category, or are you in an established category? In an established category, you can, buy your way out, right? That you can maybe, let's say, marketing attribution already has some traffic. There are some established keywords you can, spend some money, etc. Right? We're still kind of relatively newer category, right? That at least like we are in even today. So we didn't have that much clarity of, or that level, buy our way out in the starting. At least in the starting, that was not there. At least like 6 months back. Now we have some sense of what some of those keywords could be, like through the buying journey, what that user might search, and then we'll probably end up influencing some content over there. But at that starting, that thought process, or even our own thought process, was not that evolved, because we hadn't learned enough about the journey of that buyer or the user in the course of the while they're making this decision. So we didn't have enough understanding at that point in time. So it was primarily an outbound motion, right? That, we had a list, and within that list, we had some sense of or a hypothesis of when is the right time. For example, the at least like a couple of members between customer success and support, minimum that, and Slack as a channel of support, right? So those were the key things that we had, and it was a list of about 3,500 companies that we had. That, okay, this is the 3,500, and I mean, we're primarily targeting the US. So, and then was the process of reaching out to these people and so on.
Got it. And how was that working out in terms of like responses, response rates, and what channels worked for you? Was it again mostly warm intros, trying to find out somebody over there, and hence a connect that way? Or
obviously everybody tries, right? We also tried. I mean, the best intro is a warm intro. So the simplest hack is to ask some of your investors to introduce, right, or to get some investors who are already deep entrenched with that segment. So we did that, and that maybe got us to the first 4 or 5 customers, right? I mean, how many intros can you ask, right? Maybe 2, 3. I mean, after a while, they also get tired, and you also, it's like you just have one question when you go on an update with them
Yeah.
that hey, this is the list.
Whom
Right?
can you connect me with?
Who
Yeah.
can you connect me with? So that doesn't scale beyond a point, right? It'll get you a few intros and then so on. So it got us maybe the first 3-4 customers and so on, right? Which is helpful. I mean, obviously, whatever you get, beggars are not choosers at that time, right? So whatever you get it. Um, but from an outbound perspective, so we tried a couple of channels. Actually, we tried all the three, which was emails, LinkedIn, and cold calls as well. So by this time, I got one SDR in the team, and he was, we got some tooling in place, an outplay, for example, and set up some sequences, like typical sequence, right? Step one, this, step two, this, right, and then maybe an email, and then LinkedIn reach out, and then calls, and then another email. And so it was that process that we started. And that, I don't know the exact, I don't recollect at the back of my head like the exact numbers, but we started getting 2 to 3 meetings a week, right at the start, right? That, okay, there are meetings that are coming, and then we are able to talk to them, etc. And then that started getting us to some velocity of, okay, if you're getting 8 meetings, 10 meetings, in a month, then maybe 3-4 of them close, right? And that's also a good sign that there is some pull. So that started happening. This was maybe about I would say April, May this year, right? Which is when this started to happen, that we started getting 3-4 customers a month based on this outbound motion. Yeah.
Right. I think that is pretty much when we also got connected, and we implemented what we call engagement-based sales as a model. Maybe at this time, I'll just quickly share my screen and just cover like a couple of slides so that it's easier for everyone to follow. So yeah, what do we mean by engagement-based sales as a model, right? So we are essentially focusing on a sales strategy where we focus on more engaged accounts with a customized approach to fit their needs, rather than like a completely cold approach, right? So traditionally, what you would do, and I'm sure, Ankit, what you started with is you defined your ICP, Series A, Series B, research those accounts which match your ICP, reach out to contacts, and then measure your success with KPIs, right? Now, the challenge here being obviously that, researching target accounts, you're spending hours trying to build this list because you already have some sort of outbound motion already. You're getting other references. There are some people maybe coming inbound, etc. And then even to measure your KPIs, there is a lot of manual sort of data pull from disparate sources, right? Now, and you're missing out on accounts which have already engaged with your brand, who are already aware about you, right? So even at the earliest stages, there are still people who are aware about your website, are landing on your website, are interacting with you on LinkedIn, and if those accounts are meeting your ICP, then probably it's a better fit to kind of reach out to them. And hence, what we at Factors, and we work with a large number of seed to Series A sort of startups. Essentially, we bring in all your account data from across your CRM, accounts that are visiting your website. We are able to identify that at an account level using IP to company mapping. We bring in your data from G2 and LinkedIn. So all the main channels that you're using to build out your brand, and essentially build out a new approach, which is look at all your search traffic and inbound traffic on the website. You drive awareness through LinkedIn or some channel, and ultimately all of these accounts land on your website. You monitor account engagement on your website to understand which accounts are spiking in terms of activity and interest. Specifically for those accounts, you can track using Factors exactly what are they doing on your website, which pages are they spending time on, how much time are they spending on each page, etc. And then personalize your outreach for this. And lastly, you can measure the success of all of this with KPIs and dashboards and Factors, both for your marketing team and your sales team, right? So you essentially pivot from reaching out to a set list to driving awareness through either your email campaigns, LinkedIn sort of social posting, or paid search campaigns, funneling traffic to your website, and then look at those signals on your website as a way to prioritize the accounts that you need to reach out to, right? So Ankit, it would be great if you could talk about, let's say in May, I think we connected, and what all did you change in that process
I think
from the time that you were?
yeah, the biggest change. So I always used to keep asking my SDR teams, right? Why aren't we personalizing emails and reach outs, right? I mean, the standard thing that the founder will say, right? They used to tell me my open rates are this, right? And like my response rates are this. My question was that, okay, man, like how do we increase this? And one of the levers is to, okay, I mean, like personalize, right? As much as you can, right? And then the fallback always was that like, but like, I mean, it takes a lot of time to personalize, to meaningfully be able to personalize to a segment, to a particular individual, right? I mean, it'll take like you 30 minutes to really think through and like do, I mean, you can do templatizing, but maybe at least like 15 minutes to like do a thoughtful conversation, right? And then, um, so then I think then the question was, okay, how do we find who are more engaged and maybe personalized to that, right? That was the thing that we felt that, okay, seems reasonable, possible to do. The holy grail always was whom to personalize, right? And then the question ended up becoming that, okay, let us look at the top of the funnel um, awareness campaigns, right? So we started with two things. One is LinkedIn ads across the list of 3,500 prospects and the specific set of people, right? We ran LinkedIn ads from a branding perspective, right, on that. Right, and we tried out multiple things over there, right? And what's working, what's not working, etc. And then along with that, we also ran we created our own, like based on whatever we had learned from early customers, certain set of resources that will be valuable for these people. So those were also run as both LinkedIn ads as well as email campaigns, right? So we started educating, right, in terms of emails, and then what we said that, okay, that is a way to get signal. I mean, like basically some people will click if they're interested to know more, right? Those are higher intent, users or like prospects, right? So and like we were like looking at this as, okay, this is the awareness stage, right, where we are talking about that such a problem can be solved, right, or there are solutions for it, and then divert people over to our website to learn more about us. So now that we have some intent that, hey, maybe this is a problem aware buyer, right? Now the problem, so if this is a problem aware buyer, now can I get my SDR team to do more personalized reach outs based on their LinkedIn profiles, based on where the company is, looking at the recent events, and so on. And then they kind of started doing more personalized reach out, right? And then we've been running multiple experiments. This is still an evolving process, but that has been our answer to, okay, maybe you can't personalize to everyone, but like how do you personalize to higher intent users, right? Which is where I think Factors plays in our context, right, a very important role in that entire puzzle, where after a website visit, we look at who are these visitors, and then via some templates and mechanisms that we have, and some research that we do about the account, we reach out, and there are our response rates in these emails are 5x than the normal response rates that we have, because like you obviously spend the time, right, to look at what the company does, what the individual has been was doing, and so on, right? We also call out, hey, you're working with these customers we see on your website, these are enterprise customers, are you doing premium support? If so, I'm sure you'll be facing these problems, right? Now that you're a team of 3 people, right, managing expectations to customers and like measuring the quality of support must be a challenge. So here are a couple of resources that you could look at, like how we've helped our customers, and would you like to chat, right? Things like that, essentially, right? Which has really increased the um, you know, uh, our ability to book meetings via an outbound channel.
Got it. So you mentioned one, personalizing, and obviously you started with, hey, our response rates or our efficiency of this channel is so much. How do we drive more efficiency? Obviously, personalizing your outreach is one way to kind of drive more efficiency there, and that comes to then comes the challenge of you cannot personalize to everyone. So you focused on high intent accounts and highly engaged accounts. You have obviously the added advantage that they've spent enough time on your website, so you have a better sense of what is interesting for them, so you have more material to personalize, and it's also worthwhile to spend the time to research about their customers, go to their website, because they've already invested enough time on engaging with you, right? And that became the channel to kind of expand out.
There's
I'm curious.
Yeah, there's just one more thing. I mean, is like, I mean, might be helpful for some folks is that, I mean, you'll always figure out that your ICP hangs out on one channel, right? Or like their propensity to reply on one channel is high. In our case, it was LinkedIn. And like for whatever stupidity, LinkedIn invites per week are a scarce resource. I mean, it's a stupid thing, but it's just a reality, right? And at the end of the day, you want to figure out, right, where you'll use that, right? Because our response rates on LinkedIn were 4x higher as compared to email. It's just out of, I mean, people just hang out there, right? Or whatever, right? So we also used the factors data to, you know, optimize that also, right? For whatever it's worth, right? In my mind, like SDR function is like efficiency, right? I mean, at the whatever efficiency, right? Because like at the end of the day, you want to, like, till a time that you catch up, the brand awareness catches up, and like you are maybe like well recognized, or the category gets established, everything, right? Like till a time that, you know, scrape all the pennies that you can, right?
Got
That's
it.
the philosophy.
Yeah, interesting that you talked about LinkedIn in-mails or connection requests being like scarce, right? It is a tiny detail, but it does hamper how you can do outreach, especially if LinkedIn is working out for you as a channel, right? It is a constraint.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like essentially, you know, at this point in time, you're like, okay, like, what can we do, right? So if you're meeting and we're like, you know, we're thinking, okay, what can we do? Like the team is to come back and say, so a lot of times it's stupid, but like a lot of times, you know, we always talk about like in our SDR, you know, meetings on a weekly basis, like, okay, what's the bottleneck? You know, recurringly the teams, you know, comes back and says that, hey, you know what, LinkedIn invites is the bottleneck, right? It's as stupid as
Okay.
that, or like, you know, these emails have, you know, we've gone through our own journey of warming up, and like on email side also, it's its own journey. But like, I think it's like, you know, these are all efficiency functions, right? And like it continuously, you need to always, you know, keep experimenting, keep iterating, keep understanding what the bottlenecks is, and then use the scarce resources really well. Yeah.
Got it. And Ankit, during this time, did you notice a difference to more real-time engagement with accounts? Like,
Yes.
was speed to response like an important aspect?
Yeah. So, you know, I'll tell you the good parts. Like, obviously, you know, speed is important. Speed is helpful. So definitely, you know, we were seeing that. In fact, like we also set up a mechanism to, you know, kind of speed up the. So, I mean, one thing great about Factors is like there is a real-time alert, right? And then you have like, and then those are in our context, like the team kind of takes those as the highest priority, right? And then reaches out, etc. For sure. I mean, we do have got some feedback that this was creepy as well, right? So I won't kind of, I mean, you take that with a pinch of salt, but like, I mean, in general, speed is important, right? So, I mean, obviously, if somebody's reached out, right, and then, you know, somebody has visited the website, you know, reach out is helpful, right? Real-time reach outs and so on is.
Got it. And the other thing I'm curious is, were you also, so you started with obviously dev tools, infra, Series A, Series B. Did you find some other segments as well, which are engaging and yeah?
Yes, so very good question, right? So, so I think Factors has this ability, right? You can map multiple lists, right? And then, you know, try and set up alerts for, like, we have different channels, for example, right? So this is the highest priority channel, right? Right. So in sales, it's always about like whatever the fuck is figured out, right? Just double down, right? So whatever is figured out, that's free lunch, right? If you're not acting on that, somebody else will lead that lunch, right? Because people are going to competitors and so on, right? So, but we also had, you know, so for example, SaaS managed service providers, and there are like 4 or 5 other segments also that we have. We're still exploring those segments, right? So we have alerts set out to different channels for that, and then we have some SOPs around what we do for that to reach out. Actually, to be honest, right, these are also learnings from our perspective, right? So I look at these alerts also to understand what's happening, right? So like these are all signals to founders also to the extent of pull from this segment, right? So like, for example, a founder, like I need to take a call that, do I need to do a webinar for, MSP segment, right? Do I need to go and engage in that community on Discord server and see what are they chatting about, right? And get a sense of. So I think I look at these also as signals, right? On like why is this company coming to my website, right? So definitely, something that we have set up like different channels for some of these different alerts. And that's been very interesting for us, right, to learn and so on, right? So yeah.
Got it. So basically, for your ICP already defined, there is a separate channel, real-time alerts.
Yes.
Obviously, highest priority, sales team has to kind of go after them because you've built your product, your brand, everything, awareness. You have enough case studies, proof points.
Yeah.
But then there are all these other segments. So there is a risk that you may end up being, very narrowly focused on that. But by looking at these accounts, you are able to see that, hey, there are other pockets where we are getting interest. And that helps you kind of avoid those blind spots and ensure that you are engaging with those segments as well.
One thing I'll call out is that a lot of things also changed as soon as we turned on paid ads. As soon as we turned down paid ads, Google, you have no control so that's the problem with Google, right? You will get everything, right? Right? Because keywords are like, a lot of our keywords are generic keywords, right? So, and so on. So people search a lot about Slack-based integrations when they are actually kind of facing so some segment of those people are facing the problem that we plan to solve. So you end up bidding on those, right? So that is getting you a different, different ICP who still might be addressed by minor tweaks in the product and positioning, but still, if they're still landing on you and then listening to you, these are signals for you to maybe hypothesize. So we, we do kind of look at the these different channels as one of the things. So what I wanted to call, after turning out paids, this happened, which was again, like this is where Factors has been helpful. And I think one thing that I'll call out is like there are a lot of reporting softwares. What really works is like we are wired just as a company as like, we work on notifications, and notifications like drive, okay, and this is interesting, right? And in a public way, right, where you can. So I do tag like teammates a lot of time. Hey, this seems interesting. Have you followed up, right? Or like a lot of time they spark discussions that, hey man, like okay, like why is this
maybe let's write a blog on this topic or targeting this segment.
So a lot of that, like that can't happen in a dashboard. And I'm looking at the dashboard. So I do have 30 minutes blocked on Monday to go through Factors dashboard to look at the companies. But I can't do any discussion on that. I mean, like, so, but like on the notifications, a lot of the discussions automatically happen, right? So it becomes a collaborative workflow, right? Which is what, happens in a startup journey.
Got it. Ankit, maybe we'll just take one question from the audience before we continue. So I think Saurabh has a question on how did you map those 3,500 accounts across the awareness journey? What tools and what kind of data came handy at this stage?
So very good question, right? So obviously the base tool was like we had actually now Sales Navigator has become really good and they've done a lot of enhancements. So you should look at that. But like for us, we use Lintel for like filtering. Actually, let me take back, right? We use Traxon as one of the data sources to get a master list of these companies, because a lot of times, Slintel, for example, doesn't have this dev tool. They don't understand dev tool. So we manually kind of scraped that, right, and got that list of 3,500 that has the funding stages, etc. Then we put it on Slintel. Slintel gives us the data. Slintel has technographic information in terms of what their support stack are. So we had a sense on like then we ran some amount of things on LinkedIn to understand, whether they have a customer success person or not, right? I mean, some amount of manual work, right? We had the SDR team was doing this work, right, to map. So we had some sense of where in the customer success journey are they, customer success / support journey are they, and where in the tech stack are they. Then we used some scrapers to run on their website to understand if they are using the premium support term or Slack support on their pricing pages, which helped us get even more signals of like, is there, and that was also an input into personalization. So those were some of the things that we did. Awareness is a very tricky part. And I don't have a great answer. Actually, I would love to learn more. But awareness is always, so what we said was that we'll assume that the people are not aware and we'll make them problem aware, like as a base. Because we're still operating in a new market or a new category. And we kind of took a call that only the problem aware, maybe we'll just, take that hypothesis and go with that. We haven't still found a great solution for that, right? A lot of our content is around that. Yeah.
Got it. Understood. Ankit, just fast forwarding like a few months, right? So now I think you have a larger marketing team. You're doing paid ads, you're doing content, and writing a lot more sort of blogs and guides. So how has Factors come in handy at this stage, and how has it evolved?
Yeah. So one of the things, as I said, right, I do have a 30-minute slot, right, in which I review. So I think the things that the mindset of a founder is always what's working, right? So if there is a person who's converted via a LinkedIn ad or a Google ad, then I go and look at what are they reading, right? And then so essentially, what Factors helps me is, okay, what is the journey of that particular account, right? Now I have a HubSpot lead, which I know that, they have then, what have they done on fact, like essentially what are the set of pages on the website that they've done. And then that is something that then becomes an input to the content team that, hey, we need deeper content over here, and so on, right? Which is, so essentially, yeah, just trying to understand what type of content are they reading to then figure out what to double down on, which is,
Got it.
I think.
Got it. So what kind of content and what kind of paid keywords, paid campaigns are driving most of these conversions?
Yes.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So the paid marketing team uses Factors to establish that attribution, that, this keyword against this. Yeah. So essentially that is there. And then net it gets down to like figuring out what's working and then creating better content for that, so that you can improve. Yeah.
Got it. And I think there is one more question that we've got. So, and I think I'll just read it out and get for you, which is, before I run the LinkedIn ads, and this is from Parth, should I not first achieve PMF with ICP to whom I should direct these ads? If not, do I not run the risk of burning money with low ROI?
So it's a fair question, right? And there is no great answer to this, right? Praveen, you'd also attest to this, right? I mean, I would argue that yes, I mean, some amount of pull is something that you need to have, right, without blowing money. I kind of agree with that, for sure, right? But sometimes it's also a chicken and egg problem, right? That you want to, some of these are also lead gen mechanisms, right? Whatever you fancy term, you can call it customer discovery. At the end of the day, you want to talk to people, right? And this also is I mean, customer discovery, you in your mind, you are doing customer discovery, like the person in front of you doesn't care, right? He has a problem to solve, right? So, and like, he wants to talk to credible vendors, he or she wants to talk to credible vendors. So, I mean, you do run the risk of not spending and, not getting leads. There are cheaper ways to, so email is cheap, right? It is infinitely scalable, comparatively, with the right controls, with the right warming and a bunch of techniques that are now widely available. You can probably save money for sure. But you do run some amount of chicken and egg problem does exist, to be honest.
Yeah. My answer would also be very similar, right? Like that, at the earliest stage, ROI is probably not something that you should obsess about, right? When you have to think of it as probably as an experiment to say, we'll try and see, rather than having a very high ROI benchmark on this. So you try a campaign with a specific ICP, and then you see how much they are engaging with you, and you obviously have like a couple of meetings at least from that, and then you'll get like a intuitive sense of saying, is this kind of working out, right? So somewhere there is a chicken and egg problem. You have to invest without like a very high ROI expectation. Get those meetings, get an intuitive check of is it working or not before you double down, right? So
Yeah.
maybe like a mental model to say is I'll keep aside so much money for experiments for
Yeah.
3 or 4 segments, and once I try three or four segments, and once I have some qualitative feedback, then I'll double down on the one that's working best.
But I think, I mean, to some extent, we still, when we start, even generally, if you are exploring any new segment or any new use case, right? We do start with the cheapest segment, which is email, and that also, we have some hacks to figure out in our mind who can be a potential early adopter. One hack is like look at, so LinkedIn Navigator now has ability to search for ex-founders, so entrepreneurial, forward-looking people,
Hmm.
really in your ICP are generally, and you can say founder to founder reach out, right? And generally people have a soft corner, so generally response rates are high. What I mean to say is like there are cheaper ways before, like you're right, that before blowing off money on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is actually a blow, right? It just goes, right? You put, it's very easy to, and you can, there's a joke that you can spend. In Google, you can't outspend, but in LinkedIn, you have an ability to spend whatever is the budget that you send, you set.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think Google, there's at least some cap of keyword volume, etc. In LinkedIn, you can very
LinkedIn,
quickly spend a lot of money.
yeah, it's if
Yeah.
it's funny, but yeah. So I mean, hack is like, yeah, use cheaper channels to experiment earlier on before spending on paid channels. It's a fair hack. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Uh, but one last slide that I wanted to kind of share is just to summarize what we discussed up until now, which is basically how Factors helped Clearfeed unify their entire account data from LinkedIn, website, and their CRM into like one unified view. This further helps them in terms of advanced analytics to understand one, which accounts are engaging with your campaigns, which accounts are landing on your website and spending a lot of time, what content are they consuming, and then thirdly, make this available in the form of real-time alerts, where the entire team can collaborate on these alerts and then have a lot more discussions, and new initiatives kind of spinning out of that, right? So these are like the 3 pillars. Ankit, any last thoughts on what would have been the impact of the entire work that we have done together, at least for Clearfeed?
It's hard to quantify like whether the exact number of leads, but I definitely say it's a very core part of our stack, right? In terms of helping the team prioritize the set of things that they work on, and driving the work for marketing, right? So I would kind of call that out. I mean, during some months, so earlier on when we had just got Factors, so it looked at, for example, I distinctly remember that if there were like 15, 16 meetings in a month, then like 5, 6 of them were attributable directly to, the campaigns that we did via Factors. Is the last that I recollect, when we reviewed, but now it's part of the stack, so we don't review things like that anymore. It's like, I would say it's like core part of it's the way you work, right? This is the more scientific and measurable. I mean, the team knows what to prioritize. Without Factors, it would have been that we can't personalize. We just like it takes a lot of time, right? But like it just gives us some way to work more efficiently.
Got it. Yeah, I think we've just about come to the end of the session today. So Ankit, thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it, and thanks to everyone in the audience as well. It's probably kind of late where you are, so really appreciate all of you staying up, and contributing. Thanks a lot then, everyone. I think we'll call quits then. And once again, thanks a lot for attending the session.